Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Litodio, where we bring you books in minutes, insights for life. Today, we're discussing an incredibly powerful read, Turn the Ship Around, by David Marquet. This book isn't just for leaders in traditional business settings. It's for anyone who wants to break free from the old ways of doing things and embrace a new, more empowering approach to leadership and life. In today's fast-paced world, where businesses, teams, and even personal relationships require more adaptability, creativity, and engagement, Turn the Ship Around offers a blueprint for success. Marquet, a former U.S. Navy submarine captain, shows us how leadership can be redefined in a way that encourages every individual to take ownership, make decisions, and lead within their roles. His shift from a traditional leader-follower model to a leader-leader model is not just inspiring, it's revolutionary. By the end of this episode, you'll see why this book is relevant for anyone interested in creating a more engaged, innovative, and empowered environment, whether in the workplace or in your personal life. Here's what to expect in today's episode. Intro to the book. We'll start with a quick overview of Turn the Ship Around, why it was written, what it's all about, and how it can change the way you think about leadership. Chapter by chapter run through. We'll walk you through the book, breaking down the main ideas and concepts from each chapter so you can easily digest and apply them. Key takeaways. Finally, we'll highlight the big lessons that will leave you thinking about leadership and empowerment in a whole new light. So, sit back, relax, and get ready for a transformative journey with Turn the Ship Around. Let's jump in and start turning our mindset toward leadership in a way that empowers us all. Introduction. Turn the Ship Around, by David Marquet, is a powerful leadership manifesto that challenges traditional top-down management structures and presents a new way of leading, one that emphasizes empowerment, trust, and innovation. Written by Marquet, a former U.S. Navy submarine captain, the book details his transformative journey aboard the USS Santa Fe, a nuclear submarine that was struggling with poor morale and low performance. Faced with the task of turning the ship around, Marquet abandoned conventional leadership practices in favor of a decentralized, leader-leader model. At the heart of the book is the idea that leadership should not be about controlling others but about creating an environment where everyone is empowered to make decisions, take ownership, and contribute to the success of the team. Marquet's approach fosters a culture of responsibility, accountability, and innovation, which is not just applicable in the military but in any organization or industry. Marquet's narrative is both a memoir and a leadership guide, offering practical lessons on how to create a high-performing culture, shift from a compliance-based mindset to a commitment-driven one, and build a sense of shared ownership. His personal experience, combined with a deep understanding of leadership principles, makes Turn the Ship Around a timeless and impactful read for anyone interested in transforming their leadership style or organization. Chapter 1. The Call to Action. In this chapter, Marquet sets the stage by introducing his leadership philosophy. He talks about his first day as captain of the USS Santa Fe, a submarine with poor morale and a low performance record. Marquet was given a ship that was struggling, and he knew that to make a difference, he had to change the way people thought about leadership. The main lesson here? Leadership is about creating an environment where people feel empowered to act, not just following orders. One powerful story he shares is about how the previous leadership structure had people simply following orders, which led to a lack of engagement. Marquet quickly realized that if he wanted his crew to be fully engaged and take ownership, he needed to shift the responsibility away from himself and give it to others. Chapter 2. Commanding Officer versus Captain. Here, Marquet contrasts two kinds of leadership, commanding officer and captain. He explains how the military typically operates on a commanding officer model, where orders come from the top and people follow them without question. But Marquet wanted to flip this and adopt the captain model, where every person on the team takes responsibility for the ship's success. One key example he uses is how he stopped giving orders and started asking questions like, "What do you think we should do next?" This simple shift created a culture where everyone felt like they were in charge of their domain, leading to more engaged, proactive individuals. The lesson? Leaders shouldn't be the ones with all the answers. They should help their teams come to solutions. Chapter 3. Give control, create leaders. Marquet dives into the importance of giving control to the people on your team. He talks about how he empowered his crew members to take ownership of their decisions, rather than just following his lead. One example he shares is how he stopped saying, "Dive the boat," and instead asked, "What are your orders, officer?" This shift made the crew think critically and take responsibility. A key takeaway here is that leadership isn't about having all the control, it's about helping others grow into leaders themselves. Marquet emphasizes that when you trust people with control, they will rise to the occasion and take on more responsibility. Chapter 4. The Leader-Leader Model. In this chapter, Marquet introduces the leader-leader model, the central theme of his book. He explains that traditional leadership, the leader-follower model, creates passive followers who don't feel ownership over decisions. The leader-leader model flips that idea, encouraging everyone to lead in their area of expertise. A great story he shares is about how he had his crew come up with the ship's mission plan instead of doing it himself. By allowing his team to plan and execute the mission, he built their confidence and gave them a sense of ownership. The key lesson here is that leadership should be distributed, not concentrated at the top. Empowering people to lead in their own roles creates a more engaged and motivated team. Chapter 5. Develop competence, not compliance. Marquet talks about how he shifted the focus from compliance to competence. Instead of getting the crew to just follow orders, he wanted them to understand why they were doing things and to be fully competent in their roles. He gives an example of how he took time to train people on how to handle problems instead of simply giving them instructions. The takeaway here is that leadership should focus on developing people's skills and understanding so they can make informed decisions. When people are competent, they don't need to be micromanaged or told what to do, they can act on their own. Chapter 6. Redefining leadership. This chapter delves deeper into the idea of redefining leadership. Marquet explains that leadership is not about being in charge, but about creating more leaders. One of the things he emphasizes is that a true leader empowers others to think critically and make decisions on their own. He shares the example of how he allowed his officers to take the lead in running drills, giving them full responsibility for their success or failure. This approach led to higher levels of engagement and better outcomes because people were directly involved in the process. The lesson here is that leadership is about multiplying the impact of others, not doing everything yourself. Chapter 7. Clarity, competence, and control. Marquet discusses how he created clarity, competence, and control on the Santa Fe. Clarity meant making sure everyone understood the mission and how their individual roles contributed to it. Competence involved ensuring everyone had the skills and knowledge they needed to perform well. Control meant giving people the autonomy to make decisions within their area of responsibility. He uses the example of a situation where the crew had to solve a problem while he was away and how they handled it successfully by taking full responsibility. The key lesson here is that for a team to perform well, they need to have a clear understanding of what's expected of them, the competence to meet those expectations, and the control to make decisions. Chapter 8. Changing the culture. In this chapter, Marquet focuses on how he changed the culture of the Santa Fe to support the new leadership model. He emphasizes that culture change takes time and requires consistent effort. Marquet shares how he led by example, showing the crew that he was willing to trust them with responsibilities and support their decisions. The main takeaway here is that culture isn't changed by speeches or mandates, it's changed by actions. Leaders need to model the behavior they want to see in their teams. Chapter 9. The Power of Intent. Marquet explains that clear intent is essential for effective leadership. Instead of giving direct orders, he focused on communicating his intent clearly so that others could make decisions on their own. He shares the story of how this approach worked during a critical situation when the crew needed to make quick decisions in his absence. The lesson? By focusing on intent rather than specific orders, leaders give their teams the freedom to make the best decisions based on their understanding of the situation. Chapter 10. Empowerment equals engagement. In the final chapter, Marquet wraps up the book by reinforcing the idea that empowerment equals engagement. When people feel trusted and capable, they become more engaged and motivated. He talks about the successes the Santa Fe experienced after implementing the leader-leader model, with the crew taking full ownership of their roles. The key message here is that when people are given control and responsibility, they rise to the challenge and deliver better results. Here are the main takeaways from Turn the Ship Around. 1. Leadership is about empowering others, not controlling them. Think of leadership like coaching a sports team. Instead of shouting instructions from the sidelines, a great coach empowers players to make decisions and trust their instincts. That's the heart of Marquet's approach. He realized that the best way to turn around the USS Santa Fe was to stop giving orders and start asking, "What do you think we should do?" By giving his crew the authority to make decisions, they became more engaged and responsible for their actions. Lesson: leaders should focus on developing others as leaders, not just followers. 2. Shift from compliance to competence. Imagine you're on a team and the only thing you do is follow orders, not fully understanding why you're doing them. That's how the submarine operated before Marquet stepped in. He shifted the focus from compliance, just following orders, to competence, understanding what to do and why. When people know how to do their jobs well, they feel more confident and empowered to act independently. Lesson: train people to understand their roles deeply, and they'll take initiative and make smarter decisions. 3. Clarity, competence, and control are key. Picture a team working on a project. If no one knows exactly what the goals are, clarity, or if they don't have the skills to succeed, competence, or if they're not given the freedom to make decisions, control, the project is bound to fail. Marquet made sure his crew understood the mission, were trained to handle their duties, and had the authority to take action. Lesson: for a team to succeed, everyone needs to know the goal, be capable of achieving it, and be trusted to act when needed. 4. Decentralized decision-making. Marquet didn't want to be the one making all the decisions. Instead, he gave responsibility to the people on the front lines, who were more capable of responding to situations in real time. A great example is when he stopped saying, "Dive the boat," and started asking, "What are your orders, officer?" This encouraged crew members to think and act like leaders in their own right. Lesson: leadership isn't about having all the answers. It's about creating an environment where others can take the lead and solve problems. 5. Intent over instructions. Instead of giving direct orders, Marquet focused on communicating his intent. For example, rather than telling his crew exactly how to handle a problem, he explained what the end goal was and trusted them to figure out the best way to achieve it. This made the crew feel empowered to act decisively, even in high-pressure situations. Lesson: share the why behind your decisions and let people decide the how. This encourages problem-solving and accountability. 6. A culture of leadership is built by actions, not words. Changing a culture isn't something that happens overnight or through motivational speeches. It requires consistent action. Marquet didn't just talk about empowerment, he showed it every day by allowing his crew to take the lead. One powerful story was how he let junior officers run drills, giving them real responsibility for success or failure. Lesson: to change a culture, you have to model the behavior you want to see, not just talk about it. 7. Create leaders at every level. Marquet's whole approach revolves around the idea that leadership should be spread out, not concentrated at the top. He wanted every person on the Santa Fe to think like a leader. This is about giving people ownership over their work and encouraging them to make decisions without always waiting for approval. A good example is how he encouraged his officers to run the ship's operations instead of doing everything himself. Lesson: great leaders aren't afraid to build more leaders. When everyone takes ownership, the team performs better. 8. Engagement equals empowerment. Marquet found that when people feel trusted and empowered, they're more engaged in their work. The crew on the Santa Fe went from disengaged to highly motivated once they were given the freedom to make decisions. Engagement is the result of feeling competent and in control, not just following orders. Lesson: people are more engaged when they feel trusted and empowered. If you give them control and responsibility, they will rise to the occasion. In conclusion, the key takeaway from Turn the Ship Around is that leadership isn't about being in charge, it's about creating more leaders. By empowering others, developing their skills, and trusting them to take responsibility, you create a high-performing, engaged team. Whether you're in the military, in business, or on a sports team, these principles can help you lead more effectively and create a culture of leadership and ownership. Thanks for listening to this episode of Litodio. We hope you enjoyed exploring today's book with us. If you're craving more insightful summaries and want to stay inspired, be sure to hit the follow button and subscribe wherever you're listening. We release fresh episodes regularly, so join us next time as we explore another impactful read. We'll link to the book in the description. Until next time, keep listening, learning, and growing with Litodio.